There is not one football club in the last decade, I don't think, that has relied more on the top end of their list than Carlton. Reminding me a little bit of the Geelong teams of the 1990s, although they were more successful. Yes, they didn't bring home the flag, neither, of course, as this Carlton group, but the 89, 92, 94, and 95 campaigns did show that a top-end group could go very far and just couldn't get over the hump. Now, Geelong in that time did face some almighty sides. The 1989 Grand Final, seen as one of the best of all time, if not the best of all time. That West Coast team was basically a state team from WA at that point, and the Carlton team of 1995 was one of the best single-season teams of the modern era. Since 1990, they are definitely in the top 3, top 5, in my opinion, with, of course, no one touching 2000 Essendon, but that's not really the point. This Carlton group doesn't have that success. Yes, they've played Brisbane in the last 2 final series, one of those being a prelim, in which they gave up a 5-goal lead, but our ability to trust in Carlton ultimately is going to come down to our instinctual thought about them now. Because we don't have the media hype at the moment. I would argue this is the least hyped a Carlton side has been going into a season in a very long time. And there is a specific reason for that. And that reason is their ladder position. So finishing 8th last year and bundling out in an elimination final was almost seen as like a nothing year for the Blues. Now, you could argue that they were, in a sense, lucky that Freo choked their last 4 games away, but to be fair, I don't think Freo were beating Brisbane in that elimination final either, so we can almost throw that argument in the bin. And there were so many games last year where Carlton just had to beat and did the teams they should have. Take a look at their 3 best wins for the year last year, or the 3 biggest wins, I should say. 2 sides they should absolutely smack, and what a win, of course, that middle one against the Cats was. And then we look at their biggest losses, and yes, their 3rd biggest loss last year being under 5 goals is encouraging. Yes, I know it's in a final, but still, those other 2 losses were massive. The Hawthorn one, of course, coming with a spate of injuries, not denying that for a moment, but Carlton at their best look like world beaters, and they're not at their best looked downright average. You combine those 2 together, you get the 8th best team in the competition. Even comparing their top 8 v bottom 10 records last year show this in a massive way. So why am I talking about them? Well, it kind of comes back to my opening statement. Expecting what they need to out of their top end, and that is the bit that Carlton need to change if they are going to become a contender in this competition, whilst Paddy Cripps still has all 4 limbs working at a reasonable level. Because when we talk about their A graders, you are looking at the 2 big boys up forward with Curnow and Mackay. You've got Cripps. I am still putting Sam Walsh in there, although these preseason injuries are starting to get real annoying, I'm not going to lie. And Jacob Wiedering is one of the best key defenders in the competition, if not the best. If you haven't watched my previous video, that was my take. Those 5 there. Now, I'm not suggesting we take them out of the Carlton side and assess them that way. That would be ridiculous. Take any side's best 5 players out and you are going to get a worse product. However, the gap between Carlton and the likes of Brisbane last year, Sydney of the last 3 years, even though they've won the same amount of flags, is that their second rung of players, your B graders if you will, have been able to step up. Take Brisbane, for example. Yes, for all of the Lockie Neal greatness, Joe Danaher greatness, and Harris Andrews solid form, Dane Zorko, these kinds of guys. You look at the finals performances of Callum Archie. You look at Jared Berry in a couple of those finals. Kai Lohman, who effectively broke out in that final series. Yes, guys like Hugh McCluggage are always going to be top quality players, but the composure of guys like Darcy Wilmot, the ability for Brandon Starcevich to rebound from Bobby Hill winning the Norm Smith medal, effectively playing on him, to his ability to shut down Sydney small forwards at the other end was a delight to see. And as much as people want to talk about the Tom De Koning, Mark Pitney use for the Blues, even Brisbane with Oscar McInerney and Darcy Fort proved that you don't need to be an out-and-out superstar to bring quality results. And we actually don't know if TDK is a superstar yet. It's one of those terms that really annoys me, and I know Kane Corns did a list on this on SEN not too long ago about guys who are called superstars who aren't superstars yet. That is TDK. Like, we are still looking at this guy on potential. And look, I've met TDK, I've interviewed him at Pearsdale. Lovely guy, absolutely lovely guy. And Matty Cottrell is a beauty as well, who we interviewed. Both ripper lads, but TDK, we are still going potential, which is why St Kilda are throwing 1.7 million at him, because he hasn't proven himself yet, and that's just what they do for some reason. But if we look at the list of guys who are just below that A-grade threshold, you're looking at probably, in my opinion, only 2 or 3 guys. Blake Acres we can absolutely put into that category as one of the premier wingmen in the competition, and Elijah Hollands, who took some big steps forward, but I would also argue is still being looked at more from a potential point of view, but as a high half forward, I really see him becoming one of the better ones in the competition in 25. You also look at guys that just need to either put up or shut up at this point, and no one represents that better, in my opinion, than Adam Chera, who re-signed a 5-year deal after having an 24, it's fair to say, but a guy who's had some injury problems, but on the field and put together looks elite. And they drafted really well. Of course, Jagger Smith being their prized recruit this season is going to be really exciting. That midfield mix of Cripps, Walsh, Hewitt, Jagger if he comes in, Chera, that is a good mix. How many of those guys can play in other positions? I'm not sure. Will Walsh get a run on the wing because he's not a guy that spends a lot of time on the bench if he starts and finishes a game in a healthy condition? Jagger may go to a half-forward flank, maybe as he rotates through, or may go to a wing as well, considering Ollie Hollands is training off half-back at the moment and his disposal kind of scares the crap out of me, but hey, we'll wait and see how that works out. I don't know what it is with wingmen that are training at half-back at the moment. Hello, Josh Dacos, if you're listening. But he is going to be one to watch as well. I don't think we're going to see the Camporelli twins early in the season. Maybe if there's some injuries, they will step in. We'll wait and see how that goes. Cooper Lord just signed a new deal. Jackson Binns is still there. So there's depth there in the Carlton engine room, which is good. We know the tall forwards are in good shape. And that brings me to the next bit of excitement or doubt, depending on how you feel about the Blues, and that is the excitement machines. I've already spoken about Jagger Smith. I'm a big Lockie Cowan fan as that third defender down back now that Brodie Kemp has been training pretty much all summer as a forward, as he told the Rush Hour. But Jesse Motlop and Ashton Moyer are the two that should get you up and about as a Carlton fan. And look, I grew up as a teenager watching the Hawthorn 5-pronged forward line effectively of Roughhead, Franklin, Gunston, Puopolo, Rioli, Bruce, 6-prong if you will. Now, if you take Poppy out of the equation just for a second and you take Franklin out because he went to Sydney, you're now looking at Roughhead, Gunston, Rioli, Bruce. What I'm saying is, not suggesting that those 4 at Carlton are the same, but hell, you got to strive for something. Why not that? In terms of the excitement that Motlop and Moyer are going to be able to bring to the ground if they're playing their best footy, alongside 2 guys that won Coleman medals like Franklin and Roughhead did, the Blues can set a blueprint here, pardon the pun. And look, getting the ball forward and ball movement is going to be key for them in 2025. They were the best team in the competition last year for converting inside 50s into goals, and that was with basically Curnow, Mackay, and Matty Owies, who of course is not there, opening the door for Motlop and Moyer. And as excited as we can be about those players, there's also the big crop of Carlton's list that you just look at as a neutral and go, I have no bloody idea what they're going to bring to the table. Think of guys like Zach Williams, for example. Also Jack Silvani coming off the ACL, although he's been training well down back. Orazio Fantasia, Nick Haynes, and Mark Pettinet. What do the bottom 5 of those 6 players have in common? They've come from other clubs. Now, of course, we haven't seen Haynes yet in a Blues jumper, so we'll wait and see how that goes. But if they're going with Wiedering, McGovern, and Lockie Cowan, where does Nick Haynes fit into that? Where does Zach Williams fit into this side? Is it half forward again? Would you rather play Zach Williams or Jagger Smith to start round 1? If it came to that, maybe you can fit both in, but if it's just one of them, I'm taking Jagger, to be completely honest, because I think that youthful exuberance is going to be better than what Williams has proved. Yes, he had a really good month, 5-6 week period last year, but is it enough? Is his style going to work with Elijah Hollands, the 2 talls, the 2 smalls? We'll wait and see, I suppose. And then, of course, what they do with TDK and Pitnet is going to be relatively interesting. Now, I don't have TDK in any of my fantasy sides, so from that point of view, I couldn't give a damn. And I just think that TDK just needs to be the number 1 ruck, and I have no idea why that's not happening. If it's his aerobic ability, then that is not good. Who plays second ruck then? Well, could they go down the Hawthorn method with Josh Weddle and make Brodie Kemp their backup ruckman for 5 minutes, or someone else, whoever that may be? But TDK and Petnet, straight up, doesn't work. And granted, Carlton had some real strengths last year and not a lot of weaknesses, but one of the big problems that they had is that in a lot of stats last year, they were between 6th and 10th, which is what you'd expect from an 8th place side. When I did my Is Geelong Being Underrated video, part of that was because I was seeing so many ladder predictors around them being 6th to 10th, same spots as we're seeing Carlton quite a lot, whereas Geelong had an abundance of statistics that had them a better side than that, hence why I thought they were underrated. Now again, the Blues did have some really good numbers last year like this. They were the 2nd best contested ball team, 4th best in stoppage clearances, and 5th in hard ball gets. When the contest is there to be won, they're very good at winning it. Yes, it's partly because of Patrick Cripps, but George Hewitt went underrated in this area, as did Matt Kennedy, of course, before moving to the Western Bulldogs. He'll be a bit of a loss, but as we said before, they've kind of got the depth to cover there, and they dominated a lot of scoring statistics as well. They were the 3rd best team at scoring from turnover, the 6th best from scoring from centre bounce, and the 7th from scoring from their forward half. So with all of that in mind, were they a bad team down back? Well, not really. Not a substantially terrible side at all. So what was it? Very simply, it was the pressure that was being applied before the ball went inside their defensive half. From a differential point of view, Carlton were 11th for tackles inside 50 and 14th in tackles overall. That is frightening. And if these contested ball winners don't want to work hard the other way, you've got a serious problem. And I don't really give a damn where your priorities lie. If you're not going to want to take the ball off the opposition, you're going nowhere. But let's not forget, outside of those A-graders, this Carlton list isn't exactly in perfect shape. Now, I'm not suggesting that player ratings are everything, but it is quite stark to see how low, outside of the key forwards, that some of their main strong areas came in. Let me show you what I mean. For general defenders, you're looking at Adam Saad was their best 10th. Mitch McGovern was next at 41st. Wiedering as a key defender was 11th. Cripps was 2nd as a midfielder, which was great, out of 103. Sam Walsh 23rd and George Hewitt 38th. They only had one qualified midfield forward, who was Matty Cottrell, who was 18th out of 23, who qualified. And out of 73 general forwards, Elijah Hollins and Lockie Fogarty were top 20. Credit to them for that, especially Elijah, with Orazio Fantasia finishing 49th. As I said before, the key forwards were absolutely fine, both of them being top 7. But your faith in Carlton's list at this point is correct. If you think it's a good list and they're going to improve, you're right. And if you think they're meandering, you're right. So is Carlton real or fake? Your opinion of that is correct, which I 100% understand is a really weird stance to take in a video. Most of the time when I do a video, it's either about showing you something that you haven't seen before in a different way, whether it's answering a question or making predictions. It's very rare that no matter where you lie on the Carlton belief spectrum, you are spot on. And if Carlton do want to take that extra step, then their effectively Dirty Baker's Dozen group are the ones that are going to get them there, not their stars. So it's over to you, Tom De Koning, Adam Saad, Sam Doherty, although he was injured, Blake Acres, Elijah Hollins, Adam Chera, Jack Silvani, Zach Williams, Orazio Fantasia, Nick Haynes, and Mark Pitternet. If Carlton are going to win the flag this year, it won't be because Cripps is a champion. He's won 2 Brownlows. It won't be because Sam Walsh is a star. At his age, he's already the highest Brownlow medal getter for a Carlton player in the 21st century. It's not going to be because of Curnow and Mackay. They've won Coleman medals already. It's not going to be because of Jacob Wiedering. He was the All-Australian fullback last year. It's them. So do you have faith in them? I'm not sure if I do. But with their fixture, I think their home and away spot is going to be lingering around that 4 to 6 mark. But they are genuinely the epitome of I'll believe it when I see it. So what do you think about the Blues? Comment below, let me know. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe to join the Daz Talks Footy family. At the time of recording, we just hit 4,700 subscribers, which is just bonkers as a number. Very unlikely we're going to get to 5K before the season starts. But hey, Dazzling turns 27 on March 13. So that's the goal. And we'll see if we can get there. I really hope you are enjoying your week so far, guys. I am going to try and do another video before the week is done. If not, I'll see you on Monday. If so, I'll see you in that third one. Goodbye.